The Big 12 Experience Week 9 Power Rankings edition on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with that promo code TCESGPN to get a 50% deposit up to $1,000. That is the Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. Welcome, everybody, into the Big 12 College Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We're talking Big 12 football, and we're talking playoffs, and we'll rank all our teams 1 through 16. Give out a sneak peek to this weekend's games, recap what was in the weekend. Good weekend for the most part, unless you're the coin. The coin went 0-8, flipping games. So if you faded the coin, you went 8-0 and you're a millionaire. But yeah, let's get into it. I am Moneyline Mac, aka the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. And joining me to talk Big 12 football, hey man, he's got the undefeated teams, just not his own team. So he was born in Provo, Utah. He's got family in Ames, Iowa. Unfortunately, right now he lives in Morgantown, West Virginia.
Yeah.
Not Morgantown, but the West Virginia Mountaineers. Co-host of the Ryan Rush Show, Rambling Rush. What's up, man?
Man, weird predicament I'm in, boys. It seems like the better BYU does, the worse my picks do. Everything seems inverse, but hey, I'll take it, man. This is great. Retzloff, BYU. Yep, that's how you say it. Yeah. I need to get that shirt, by the way. Troy, of course, I'm not doing it to rub it in your face or anything like that, because we do pride ourselves in a little bit of
What are you talking about? We covered.
Yeah, you covered, but should have won that game, man. But
should have won that damn game.
Hell, dude, I'm fired up. Provo Magic continues. Now you got to take it to the East Coast this weekend. Can't fade now. Got the bye week after, and then of course the Holy War returns.
The Holy War is upon us, but first I got to go down to the bounce house. This guy's got a little bit of familiarity with that bounce house because he is he's always fighting a family civil war in the Big 12, whether in Waco, Fort Worth, all the way out to Stillwater, up there to Stillwater, over to Orlando, up to Cincinnati, all the way out west of Tucson. He is the Big 12 guru, a.k.a. the green mowing, weed growing Troy Chewning. What is going on, man?
I mean, why did we think we were going to get through a Big 12 season without Gundy playing 3 quarterbacks in a game? Like what? And then still almost winning. And, I don't know. Everybody, I was telling Rush before, everybody was like, wow, that tackling was so bad on that last drive. Well, you haven't watched much Oklahoma State football because that was the tackling on most drives throughout the year. You got a little fooled. They did play pretty well, but man, is there a shot that Gundy knows that they got to lose that game to get the conference a bid? We got to keep a couple of these teams kind of propped up, right?
No doubt. Hey, and I think that's a good transition. And I didn't think, honestly, that we were going to have to do this early. I thought it was going to get more towards the end. But I guess when a certain team loses to a 500 MAC team, we start our narratives early. And this bracketology thing is new to all of us. I mean, college football has been a 4-team bid the last couple of years. Big 12 definitely been on the wrong side, screwed a couple times. That one year with TCU and Baylor getting passed over by Ohio State randomly, even though they both won by 50. You can go down the list, many examples. But right now, we mentioned it, the Big 12 sits nice. 2 undefeated teams, 7-0. Iowa State, BYU, both really good non-conference road wins on the road. Kansas State sitting at 6-1. So right now they have 3 teams that are realistically in the college football race. and then maybe an outside team if they won the Big 12 title game. But I would say
There's one.
We're down to 3 at-larges. Or sorry, 3 teams that could get in that large bid if they were to lose the Big 12 title. It's BYU, Iowa State, K-State. The rest of them have to win the tournament or the game, whatever it is. Anyway, I digress. All of a sudden, Notre Dame is finally starting to make its waves and multiple outlets. And I know it's just a little thing this early, but I think it's important to discuss it now because it's only going to get worse and worse and worse because everybody's going to pretend like that game against the MAC team didn't exist. Notre Dame all of a sudden is ahead of BYU, and they're making an argument that BYU or Iowa State, if they're both undefeated in the Big 12 title game, that they would only get one bid. Rush, you're a fan of both teams. You're a fan of BYU. The floor is yours just to talk about what is to come over the final 5 weeks.
So that NIU loss needs to be treated as 2 losses. One that happened at home against Notre Dame. 2, NIU isn't like, I know it, to start the season, they were thought of as, oh, maybe this is the group of 5. And Notre Dame sure wishes that they were the group of 5 contender for the college football playoff, but that is not the case at all. A 1 loss, honestly, I would say even a 2-loss Big 12 team, if one of those losses includes the conference championship, because don't forget that too. Notre Dame's playing this wishy-washy ACC. We're not in the ACC, but we are in the ACC. So they don't even play a conference championship. And on top of that, their strength and schedule is a joke as well too. So there are just so many factors that going against Notre Dame here. But like say, we'll take Kansas State, for example. Say Kansas State, they had their 1 loss to BYU. They somehow make it to the Big 12 championship game. They lose that. Those 2 losses still look better than the 1 loss to NIU at Notre Dame. I mean, this is ridiculous. And personally for me, I think Notre Dame's going to lose again. They do have Army and Navy, which both ranked teams. So hopefully at least 2 losses, at least one of those. Virginia's in there. I know a lot of questions with USC at where they're at, but at the end of the season, that is a rivalry game, and they'll definitely try to spoil the fun there. So I do think hopefully Notre Dame loses again, so we don't even have to debate this, and then we know what's going to happen from there. The next debate is, hey, is a 3-loss Alabama team, how do they compare to a 1 loss? So we know the evolution of this. This is just where it's starting, right?
Yeah.
But no, in terms of this outright, no, it's like we saw the Florida State example last year.
Yeah.
And they were in a conference too. This should force Notre Dame. They got to join the Big Ten or something. They got to be forced into a conference. And this should be, that next catalyst to do the thing, but absolutely ridiculous. We live in a world where we've talked about it. Like, the conference championship shouldn't be used against you. I guess the only time of recent memory we saw that is when USC lost to Utah in the Pac-12 championship, but that was their second loss against Utah again. And Utah ended up, I think, losing to Penn State in the Rose Bowl that year. So it's just disgusting, but we all know how it is. All the networks are going to do like the reason that we're in conference expansion right now, because of the networks forcing their way and getting everyone under their umbrella. That's why they're starting this narrative now. And it's like I said, it's just going to trickle down. Next is going to be a 3-loss Alabama team, and then they'll throw a Big 10 team in there, and they're doing everything they can to screw the Big 12. This is just the start.
No doubt. And Troy, I would make the argument Kansas State has a better resume than Notre Dame.
I was going to say, we can skip right to 3-loss Alabama is better than Notre Dame. Like, regardless of what, Notre Dame could beat out Army and Navy and finish the rest of this even undefeated, and Alabama finishes with 3 losses, and Alabama's going to be favored playing Notre Dame anywhere they play. Any neutral site that they play, they're going to favor Alabama, and Alabama's going to win the game 21-3, and everyone's going to be like, oh my God, we got fooled by Notre Dame again. They're no different than they have been in the past. Pretty dang solid team, but whenever they have to play that step up in competition, you can always kind of tell the difference with Notre Dame. And I can tell that it's Catholic propaganda is what it is. And that's why, that's why the first school that they said had the weak schedule was BYU, not only are they Mormon, but they've got the BYU leading the team. So the Catholic propaganda immediately comes out to the Jewish Mormon team like, oh, they stink. Their schedule is horrible. Notre Dame would not be undefeated, or I mean, Oklahoma State might beat Notre Dame on that Friday night game.
Well, so here, this is my point too, is I keep seeing this narrative that Notre Dame would run through the Big 12. Based off of what?
No,
Based off of what?
I don't think they would run through anywhere.
No.
But you see what kind of team they are. They're a good football team, and that's it.
And let me ask you this. All right, they probably would have the most talented roster. How many years did Texas have the most talented roster? How many years did they win the Big 12 in the last 15 years? Once. They won one Big 12 title in 15 years, and they got better players than Notre Dame. Oklahoma, they haven't won the Big 12 since we changed the college football rules with the portal and NIL. They haven't done shit. They were terrible in the Big 12. They barely made a bowl 2 years ago. So this narrative, remember, Utah was supposed to, remember Utah fans? They came in all high and mighty. We're going to run through the Big 12. Yeah, Cam Rising got hurt.
They're 1-3.
Cam Rising didn't play at all last year, and they had no problem still spitting out 8-4 and dominating Pac-12 teams. Arizona brings back Fafita, brings back McMillan. They're supposed to win 10 games in the Big 12. They can't win a game. So this narrative that the Big 12 is some MAC version, like this is just, it's ridiculous. It doesn't have the superstar team, but top to bottom, I mean, for God's sake, Oklahoma State's 0-4 in the league, and they beat Arkansas. So I mean, this narrative is just ridiculous. And no, Notre Dame would not run through the Big 12. Jeff Sharp. So.
No.
He said, yeah.
No.
They couldn't run through the MAC.
Yeah. I saw Mac and thought he was talking about me. Yes.
If we
Jeff
gave,
you're right.
If we gave Notre Dame Texas Tech's schedule this year, they would have more than one loss.
Yes.
Texas Tech has an easy Big 12 schedule.
And Texas Tech has a very favorable schedule because Notre Dame's the kind of team to do exactly what Texas Tech just did this week, is let Baylor come into your house and not be prepared and get caught in a boat race and not be able to score, and you lose that week. Yeah. You're not playing Illinois that's going to punt a bunch and no, it's just a play style difference. I'm not saying that Illinois is a bad football team either. I'm just saying that when you are playing those Midwest style football games, you've got a shot of staying in them with the offense that's not clicking. You can score on 2 drives of the last 4 drives of the game and you're pushing it to overtime, or you might even win the game. I mean, it's nuts. Notre Dame's like the 20th ranked team in the country in my mind. I would put them in that like 18 to 22 range.
Let me ask you this, Ryan. If you gave Notre Dame West Virginia's schedule, I'm not saying West Virginia, but like, what would Notre Dame's? I think maybe they'd have one more win.
5-2.
I wouldn't. 4-3 wouldn't surprise me either.
They're good. Don't get me wrong. Like, they probably would have the best roster in the league, but that doesn't mean anything. And we have to. And Saban started this bullshit a couple years ago. It's like, if we're favored against this team on a neutral field, we should be in the playoff over them. It's like, no, you still have to beat the teams in front of you. You should not be rewarded because your power rating's above Notre Dame's power rating's above BYU. You lost to Northern Illinois. Was your power rating above Northern Illinois? I mean, come on. I mean, you were 30-point favorites and you lost outright. So I just wanted to do this as a segment early just because you're slowly starting to see, like, ESPN.com already put out an article like Notre Dame's big win at Purdue. I mean, Purdue's one of the worst Big Ten teams, worst Power 5 teams in the league. And then they just completely ignored that they lost to Northern Illinois. Nobody gives BYU any credit for winning at SMU, yet alone being 7-0. All of a sudden, Iowa State winning at Iowa is not a good win anymore, even though Iowa, the Hawkeyes win 95% of their games in Iowa City, including against Ohio State and Michigan. So I just want to throw that out there. And yeah, that's all I got. And one last thing too.
I was going to say big win at Purdue, who starts Hudson Card, who couldn't even make it as a backup for Texas in the Big 12. That's interesting.
Well, and one last thing too, is for the rest of the Big 12 fan bases, I know this really only is going to impact BYU, Iowa State, and K-State this year.
Yeah.
But I think we all agree, like Utah was the favorite. Utah's not going away. They'll be back next year. Texas Tech, UCF, West Virginia, TCU was in the national championship. Oklahoma State's traditionally good. Kansas, even Colorado, Cincinnati, Baylor's had good teams. All of these Big 12 teams are going to be in this situation at some time. So, I mean, you better push and you better pull for your other Big 12 teams, because the propaganda will be against you in a year that you have a special team like BYU, Iowa State, and K-State are having this year. So I think we all agree that this is the most balanced league, and we need to push the narrative back, man. That's all I'm saying, because this is bullshit that this is already starting. So
there's one 2-loss team that could solve the problem for the Big 12.
Who's that?
The only one that ESPN would never push back against.
Yeah, Colorado would get the benefit of the doubt. You are right on that. Anyway. Let's talk about the Big 12, because a lot's happened. But first, we got to talk about, the Big 12 experience. Get on over there, leave a 5-star, prevent corporate gambling from winning over and promoting all this bullshit Notre Dame and SEC and Big 10 overrated teams. Get on over there, leave a 5-star today, and help us help you. The Big 12, baby, the land of the free, the America's League. And we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Use a special and boost with Flex Entry. Get on over there. Use that sign-up code, promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000. That is the Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And make sure you tune in on Thursday when we give out our Underdog play for Week 9 in the Big 12. All righty, we are back. Talking Big 12 and Rush. We'll do our tiers. What tier are you leading off with here, and who we got in the teams?
Tier 4 will lead it off, and this is the spoiled or spoiler. So maybe they have a chance to play spoiler down the road to some of these better teams, but most likely it's like leaving a banana out 6 weeks too long. They're spoiled. So I got 3 teams here. UCF gave life against Iowa State, but they did as they did, and I think things are only going to get worse with BYU coming to town this week. Houston, of course. Kansas unleashed all that frustration out on them with 5 straight losing 5 straight 1-score games, and predicted here on this show. And I got to put Oklahoma State here too. 0-4 in Big 12 play. I don't think Oklahoma State's that bad, and of course, of this group, I think this is the one to at least jump and potentially be into that next tier of bowl bound. But they are 0-4 in Big 12 play. Very depleted defense. Who's playing quarterback? Apparently Bowman now. He does better running the football than he does throwing it. They made him a dynamic quarterback out there. So those are the 3 teams that lead off my tier 4.
I like it.
The old man in the box, Alan Bowman, the wide angle release. They just weren't ready for the speed that he has. They judged it wrong. I actually have the same 3 teams. I put Houston at the very bottom, Oklahoma State at 15, and UCF at 14. I guess I'm just a little biased against Oklahoma State this year, just not being able to quite get it done. We thought that they looked, pretty solid on Friday night against BYU. Obviously a tough place to play. Kind of hung in there with a team that looks like they could be on that TCU path of like, everybody truly believes this is the year, and that's what makes the bounces go in your favor. Like everybody always calls it luck, but it's not always real luck. There's a little bit of extra effort to it, but yeah, I don't know. Oklahoma State is just so unpredictable right now. And I thought UCF, for the predicament that they were in, they actually kind of fought, which was not super expected. But yeah, those 3 teams spoiler is the best option they have left.
I have 5 teams in the bottom tier, and I think I classified them all as they're fighting for a bowl. I think that they're probably going to win 5 to 6 games. So Houston, I think, is the worst team in the league. I just think Willie Fritz, they're limited from a roster standpoint. 15 UCF, they've lost 3 in a row, but I don't think they've quit. You don't show up like you do at Iowa State if you've quit. The quarterback change, I think, was for the better, going with the young guy. Oklahoma State, they haven't quit. I mean, they went toe-to-toe with the team that we're talking about for the college football playoff the other night, but they found a way to lose a heartbreaker there. So 14 for me. And then Baylor and Kansas both in the win column in a big way this weekend. Baylor goes into Lubbock and wins by 1,000, and Kansas rolls Houston. I think that Baylor sitting at 3-4, Kansas sitting at 2-5. I think they're fighting for that 6-6 bowl spot.
And that is where I will pick up there. This is my tier 3, the bowl bound tier, with a couple teams making a jump. And I'll, like I said, Ryan, pick up where you left off with Baylor and Kansas making a jump here. I mean, this Baylor team, we're talking about a decent Hail Mary defense away from having another win there and flipping that record. So I think, what we thought that Aranda was done. Hey, there's some life when you win the Butt Bowl there.
Yeah.
Kansas as well. Going to be a little tougher, I feel like, for them. They don't have enough room forgiveness as some of these other teams. However, their schedule isn't bad the rest of the stretch. Big one with Sunflower coming up here. But Kansas getting some life with them after crushing Houston. This is where I've dropped Arizona State, which was tier 2 last week. I think Arizona State's solid. They obviously outperformed. I think they got one more win in them to get a bowl. Obviously curious how the quarterback situation's gonna play out for them. So, we would be talking a little different if they had health on their side, but it's where we all are in college football. Another team making a jump, TCU. I was a little bit wrong here. Thought they had given up on Sonny Dykes, but clearly that wasn't the case. The old Mountain West rivalry, brought life to TCU, and hey, great win in Salt Lake City. We'll see if they can capitalize that coming up. This is also where I do have Utah. Speaking of Utah, it's been a weird situation for Utah. They're still a solid coach team. They'll figure out a way to grind out the rest of the season. And the big fear, as it is for BYU fans, is the one game they figure out is the Holy War, which that could very well happen. But we're a couple weeks away from that, and we'll get there when we get there. And then these next two teams actually play each other this week, and probably losers going down to the tier 4 with West Virginia. Obviously, ugly performance. And it looks like it's a matter of time for Neil Brown. Check out the Ryan and Rush show after this. We'll talk about that further. And Arizona doesn't look good either. Obviously, knucklehead play starting with an onside kick, and then Colorado scores right away. And that was it for Arizona. That's all she wrote there. So yeah, loser of that game's probably headed to a tier 4 spot. And that is my tier 3.
I like it.
All right, my tier 3 has a couple of teams. I did give a pretty big boost to Kansas this week. I think out of all of these teams that are down here in the bottom, they've been the most snake bitten when we talk about combined points of all their losses and one possession games and all of that. They really were just average quarterback play instead of, bad quarterback play in the first few games away from having, 2, maybe 3 more wins. But I've got TCU jumped up into the 3rd tier now. As predicted, easy money line play for them against Utah on the road at Rice Eccles. Just like I said, the one Big 12 team that's going to get you is always the one you don't think is the one that's going to get you. And it happened to be TCU. Offense can move the ball. So any week that they're clicking, they can upset somebody. That's the I would like to see Notre Dame at Fort Worth, what the line would be. Like Notre Dame would only get 3 points or something, 4 points. It'd be funny. We've got Arizona at 12. They're just, I don't know. They might even be down in the bottom tier, and I just can't accept it. I'm not sure. Very back and forth. I put Baylor up above them just because they looked really impressive in that Butt Bowl. This was not one that I thought would have been a money line play, but apparently it was a pretty easy money line play for Baylor to just beat the living shit out of Tech. And then I've got Kansas at 10, and I haven't really decided. I think maybe Kansas is my Humpty Dumpty this week.
I like it. This league is fantastic. It's so evenly matched. Like the fact that an 0-3 team went to the 3-0 team and just beat the tar out of them just shows you how much balance there is. Tier 2, I guess I'll say that this is the 6-6, 7-5 club that just mediocre, but clearly some holes and why they will not be playing in Dallas. 11, Utah. Cam Rising, the main reason. Never was able to stay healthy. They're very limited offensively. 10, I got Arizona. They just, man, that was pathetic this weekend. Start with an onside kick, take the life out of it. They've been a disappointment, like we kind of predicted with Fafita and McMillan, and Brennan's first year. We'll see what happens there. Dillingham and Arizona State at number 9. I think that they're good. I think that they're not as good as their 5-2 record, but for the most part, it's been a nice little year for them, already hitting their season win total and building some positivity. Number 8, this just makes me want to throw up. The Mountaineers, just, I mean, they'll beat the below average teams. They'll lose to any team that is worth a shit. And that's Neil Brown and Aaron in a nutshell 6 years. So moving along. At number 7, I got TCU. TCU showing some life a little bit this weekend. I know Utah's limited. It's still a hard place to win. So you give them a little bit of credit there. They're quietly 2-2 in Big 12 play. They seem to be destined for that 6-6, 7-5 season. So, Rush, back to you.
Tier 2 time. So yeah, this is that 8-4, and hopefully playing a little bit of spoiler to those Dallas guys. Leading things off with Texas Tech. I know they got crushed by Baylor here. That felt very due, but still leaving them in tier 2. Another loss here, and they got a couple big ones coming up. And they could be plummeting real quick. However, I do think the rest of their season, I think West Virginia ends the season in Lubbock. So we'll see. I do think the schedule does favor Texas Tech. Moving then on to good old Cincinnati, man. Cincinnati's making a push here. They're the ones that have the tough schedule remaining. So we'll really find out what this Cincinnati team is capable of coming down the stretch. Big 12 play opened a little easy for them, but now, this is kind of that grinded out period. They got the game against Colorado here coming up this week. And speaking of Colorado, we have them there. The highest top tier 2 team. Hey, I'll completely admit it. I was wrong about them. I thought Deion Sanders was in over his head, had real concerns about their line, but man, they got ballers, they got players. And hey, sometimes like we saw in that Arizona game that we brought up earlier, it's not about outperforming the other team. It's letting them make their mistakes and doing what you need to do correctly to do. And they've been doing that. They've been disciplined. Yeah, we'd be talking about things a little bit differently on that Hail Mary in that Baylor game, but it is what it is. One team made the right play, one team didn't. And sometimes in the game of inches, that's what separates it too. So Colorado does play Cincy and Texas Tech here coming up. So we'll know a lot from those 3 teams. Obviously, with Cincinnati and Texas Tech already playing each other, and that was a great game. So we'll get more of a rounding out here coming down the stretch in Big 12 play.
Troy?
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and actually put Kansas as my Humpty Dumpty up to number 9 and kind of slide Utah into that 10 spot. And then West Virginia at 8. Because they were able to beat that team, but I see Kansas as the gatekeeper. Like, I think coming down the stretch here, Kansas has an upset in their pocket that they're going to kind of screw the Big 12 over with. West Virginia at 8, not a great performance. Kind of seems like all the hope on Neil Brown is out. I can't even fake it on the podcast anymore. Like, I think he's the best coach in the league. Sad times, but Kurt Cignetti next year should really, really help. So heard that here first. Cignetti to the
that ain't happening.
The West Virginia Mountaineers. Just ask Pat for another, $10 million donation. They'll be fine. I've got Texas Tech at 7. I thought even if they were going to lose that game to Baylor, they should have probably stayed in it if they wanted to be near the higher part of this tier or even in the lower part of the top tier. Things are going to get a little testy, I think, in Lubbock. They do have a balanced enough offense to maybe work through it, but you can definitely see the holes in this team. 6, I have Arizona State. Leavitt still the big question, but I guess we'll see how they do. You see them when they play a little bit of a step up I mean, this week was kind of a throw it away game because there's no Levitt, but we've seen them get kind of lucky. And again, kind of like the opposite of Kansas. I think you might see a few of the one possession games go the other way as we get going further into the season. I've got Cincinnati at 5. I'm pretty impressed with them. Definitely can run the ball. Definitely have some run stoppers and pass rushers on that D line that make it very interesting. But I don't think that they're quite worth that top tier. So that's the top of my almost tier. And for the first time this year, Colorado will be making an appearance in the top tier. Just so the Colorado fans know.
Oh, you have them in tier 1?
They are in tier 1 officially now.
In tier 2, I guess we'll qualify this as I think 8-4 overachieving. Kind of their West Virginia last year tier, where they have found ways to win the crazy games, and they sit pretty at 5-2. All three of these teams. Texas Tech, they got humbled this weekend, but they were due for that. They're not as good as their record, but they have found ways to win close games. You give them credit, 5-2. I like the Red Raiders. I think they'll bounce back after the butt bowl humiliation. Cincy, I like them. Imagine if they had that Pitt game that they blew. They'd be 6-1 really there, and we would be making a case for them for the college football playoffs. So Cincinnati at 5 for me. And then Colorado, for whatever reason, they play a lot better on the road. I'm with you guys. I was wrong on this team, although I will say that they did end last year on a 6-game losing streak. So, Dion, you still got to prove it in November. There's still time to fuck it up. But I will say it's trending that I was wrong on Colorado, and they look like they're going to get to a bowl, and they're 1 win away. Them and Cincinnati's a big game. I think the winner kind of probably 7-5, or sorry, the loser is going to be a 7-5 team. The winner, maybe you can fuck around and go 8-4, maybe even 9-3. So a lot of hype in that game in Boulder this weekend.
Tier 1, Dallas bound and down, leading off with Kansas State, unfortunately getting a big-time win in Morgantown. And next team I'll talk about, Iowa State. Both these teams play very similar. They're going to let you make mistakes, and once they do, they're going to pounce and not let you forget it. And then you're just going to feel like you're choking, and next thing you know, you're losing by 30 points. But hey, Kansas State going from Boulder to Morgantown. Now they have Sunflower coming up. If they win Sunflower and win those 3 in a row, that's very impressive. Klieman did what we hope Neil Brown would do, getting hired in 2019 and showing that he can be a Big 12 contender and a college football playoff contender. And, hats off to them and making it work. Kansas State, excellent job that they do, and may have that chance at a rematch against BYU. Obviously, Farmageddon to end the season will be, as we talked about before the season, maybe a de facto semifinal game. So looking forward to that one, of course. Already brought up Iowa State a little bit, but hey, they continue the magic that they have. That UCF had them dead to rights, and they figured it out, got back in the game and won. And that's what shows how great of a team they are. And we brought up Notre Dame earlier in this episode. Is Notre Dame lost to an NIU. BYU and Iowa State, they had their quote NIU games with UCF and Oklahoma State, but they figured out a way to win the game. And that's what Iowa State does. They figure out a way to win. They're going to make you make mistakes, and when you do, they're going to take over. And then BYU, they're fun, man. I haven't seen a BYU team like this in a while, if ever. I know, in 2020 they went on the roll there, and they played Coastal Carolina on a 3-day notice and ended up losing that game by 1.5 yards. But that's when they were also independent. And 2020 was a weird season. This is the second year, but first time they're doing this at a Power 4 level. A lot of people say since their national championship, and even that schedule was a little iffy and controversial for some people. They've had breaks here and there. I get that, but I also think this is a very solid team. Defense looks incredible. Atmosphere is incredible in Provo, and they just got that magic, man. And they're doing things. So hats off to the Cougs.
All right. My top tier, as I kind of alluded to, starts with Colorado at 4. I think they're like I mentioned earlier in the show, I think they're one of the shots that the Big 12 has at maybe getting a second bid. If they are the team that beats an undefeated matched up against, say, Iowa State or BYU in the Big 12 championship, and it's a Colorado win, both of those teams are going. So,
well, Colorado
I don't know.
Automatically.
Yeah, well, hopefully, depending on how what rankings go down. But I would like what I'm saying is I don't know. It seems as if the committee hasn't really punished the conference losses that hard, especially when it's the first time that the teams play. But because of that, I'm kind of buying in. And like Rush said, Colorado has players. They can have a few drives where things aren't going right and somebody just makes a play because they're the best player on the field and everything changes. So that team's, always threatening. I have seen the line play slowly improve as the year has gone on, though. And I know Colby was kind of talking about that at the beginning of the year. It looks like it took some time, but they are beginning to gel a little bit. They're becoming a football team. It's kind of weird to watch Dion actually do something, which is cool. I've got K-State at 3. Definitely still in the running. Definitely could still run the table, but kind of alluded to in the chat earlier, I think the matchup with Kansas is going to be Kansas's Super Bowl here. This is this is going to be a tricky one for them. But I also think that a lot of people outside the Big 12, if Kansas State were to, sneak this game out against Kansas, I think they would punish them just looking at numbers on a screen and thinking that, Kansas is not that good of a team. When in all reality, it's a rivalry game with a football team that's just had, snake bite losses. And they're still a competitive team. Pretty much at this point in time in the season, teams that are going to have targets on their back, I think you've got to take that into account when you see some of these wins. So what if they were only able to squeak by? This time of year, so many teams have seen what you like to do, and you still have to execute right and get wins. For now, I have BYU at 2, Rush. But there's not too much separation between them and Iowa State. And I think BYU has a little bit more of a chance at some bigger explosive plays, whether it's on the defense or offensive side. Iowa State just kind of seems like that Novocaine where they're just going to keep injecting you, and slowly but surely you get numb and then you get pounced on. But yeah, it would be very nice to just see Iowa State BYU play in the championship game unblemished. That would probably solve the 2-team issue, I think.
Oh, yeah. If both are 12-0 and they get knocked because Notre Dame didn't play a conference, we would have to ride here. I have 3 teams. Although I think Kansas State is the best out of the 3, they lost. And we're talking, and it would be hypocritical for me to put them at 1 when BYU, yes, there was some craziness in Provo that night, but that's why you play the game. And BYU is the better team in the second half that night. So there's no reason to put K-State above BYU or Iowa State right now because they have a loss. They'll have a chance to move up into 1 or 2. But if we're not going to reward wins and losses on the field, then I don't even know why the hell we play the game. So Kansas State's at 3. I went back and forth on Iowa State, BYU. I probably think Iowa State's a little bit better, but BYU's got the better resume when you really dive into it. I mean, winning at SMU, winning at Baylor, beating K-State the way they have. I think I'm going to flip and go BYU 1 and Iowa State 2. But rooting for both these teams. Obviously, we did our opening segment on these 2 teams, and the narrative already trying to say that they didn't do anything in the non-con, which was completely false. So go check out that part of the episode. But real quick, let's pay the bills and just do a quick sneak peek to Week 9, because we are brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business. Sign up and use a promo code SGPN. Deposit 100, and you'll have a chance to win a 1960 Ford Mustang. Use our link, 125% deposit bonus on the first 3 deposits. Get on over there, promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start winning today with the Rhythm. Models are on fire over there with college football, and NFL. My rhythm model went 5-3 this weekend. A lot better than that coin, baby. So get on over there. Use our claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Back here on the college or Big 12 college experience. I know people are asking about what's going on with the show. I do not know because Colby is traveling and moving this week, so I don't know when they're doing their show. But you can count on them doing a show. They will find a way to do the show. So just make sure you have your notifications on, and Big 12 will do our preview on Thursday as well. So 7 games this weekend, guys. 2 byes, Iowa State and Arizona State. Somehow Iowa State will be on a bye week and Notre Dame will be Navy and then jump them in the rankings. So be prepared for that one. First up, oh man, disrespect to BYU. Rush, let's hand this one over to you. What are you looking for? Situational spot. This is a tough going down to the bounce house, even though there are a lot of Mormons in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, this could even be looked at, the benefit of having UCF in the Big 12, right? Is you can make a weekend out of it. At Disney as well. And I think that'll happen. I think BYU fans will show up to this game. The only thing that scares me a bit, this feels like the UCF Oklahoma State game of last year with that spread. And everyone in the world's going to be like, oh, BYU. It's hard to make a cross-country trip, and so it's definitely it's a nerve-wracking line to say the least. But this is see what they're made of. It's the road to 12-0 is not an easy one.
No doubt. Troy, this is your game. Oklahoma State. Baylor's
laying a touchdown.
Get out of here. Take Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Right, what are we doing?
This is a hell of an overreaction line, don't you think?
Oh.
Yep.
They were 0-3 a week ago. Now they're laying a touchdown?
Yeah, I don't know about this one. This actually might be one that you want to jump on when you see this number right here. I don't think you're going to see it go much higher. You can get a 7 too if you want to lay it with Baylor, but I don't know about all that.
You ready for this one? The second overreaction. What?
Yeah.
Texas Tech loses one game. Now they're getting a touchdown at TCU, Rush?
Yeah, this one's hard to believe. And I mean, I feel like Texas Tech still has to go to Ames if I'm not wrong, but this is probably their second hardest game remaining on their schedule. But it's not touchdown. This is gonna be a close game.
Oh, it always is. What do they call that game?
I don't know.
I forget what it's called. It's all the fucking Texas schools. Wow. Is this rock bottom for Utah? Only laying 3 against Houston, Troy.
It might be, and this one could be this could be a Willie Fritz game. This could 100% be a Willie Fritz game. Nothing against Utah and whatnot, but when your offense can't move the ball down the field, at least Zeon Chris can kind of scramble a little bit. He might be able to, I don't know if I see the Houston defense putting up that kind of a performance like TCU did, but in the beginning of the year, if they could have gotten, 17 points, there were a few games they would have been right in. So I don't know. Maybe Houston's defense does keep this one pretty close, and it is really rock bottom.
Speaking of rock bottom, this is a rock bottom ass game here. David's in the chat. Rush, I defer. You take this. Break it down.
Let's just defer to Troy on our team.
Next.
Yeah, it's looking like Neil Brown's going to last the season, but don't be surprised if they get schmacked in this game. If that flight home, something bad, a couple calls are made and we don't see him again. So
leave him on the tarmac.
Yep. Like Lane Kiffin, right? Wasn't that Lane Kiffin with the Raiders?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, Troy, you already alluded to. You think this is going to be a ball game? I think I tend to agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would take 10 points right now. I feel like, again, I don't know how much bigger this line would get. It feels like it goes the other way, though, even if it's not by a bunch. Yeah, I know that they never really win in Manhattan, but getting 10 points, being as snake bitten as they are, I could see this being another one-possession loss.
And I love how we're just we're going to all pick against the teams that we advocated to go to the playoff potentially. But dude, that's the whole point. It's hard to go undefeated. And to Rush's point, you reward teams for winning the game. It doesn't matter if you win by 1 or 2. At this point of the year, everybody's banged up. You find a way to win. This game we alluded to, man. This is kind of an elimination game in a way for the Big 12 championship race, and the winner is right there in the thick of things. Colorado has not been as good at home this year compared to the road. What do you think, Rush? You think we get a tight one here?
I agree with you with the Colorado factor. I'm on that. I just don't know if I trust Satterfield train. I feel like their schedule has been easy so far. I feel like Cincinnati's finally playing the tough Big 12 teams. Colorado, then they got Kansas State after this. So I don't know if we know what Cincinnati is made of. And so that's my only hesitation there. But yeah, I mean, this is probably that loser leaves town game for the Big 12 championship.
Can't wait for it. Troy, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, we really get to see if Colorado's offensive line has improved a little bit. Cincinnati has a couple of game breakers that could cause some issues interior wise, but it seems like Brendan Sorsby's done a pretty good job this year of like playing slightly above that game manager level, but he's going to be asked to take it to the next level when you're playing Shedeur, and Shedeur been hot, and it hasn't really mattered who's been playing wide receiver. He's just been making plays. If Sorsby can't step up, you could lose that 5.5 pretty quickly, I think.
Should be noted that since he's only lost in the Big 12 was on that field goal at the end in Lubbock. So they've been good in Big 12 games. So schedule's not
after 2 missed ones on their own.
I know they should have won that game, but that one's the headliner. Death taxes, Colorado in the 10-15 night. Rush.
Quick correction. I was looking at the wrong week. I don't think Cincinnati plays next week, but then they have West Virginia at home. Then they have Kansas State and I think it's Iowa State, then Kansas State. So that's looking ahead, guys. I get fired up, excited. So it doesn't get easier for Cincinnati.
Oh, you're saying Neil Brown's going to beat Cincinnati off a loss?
I'm not saying anything. I'm more. Well, we both have bye weeks, but I'm more saying, and by our bye week, and maybe a bye Neil Brown week, but it was more Iowa State, Kansas State, the back-to-back there.
We need to get a graphic ready with Neil Brown for bye week, just in case that's when he gets fired.
Get it going, Troy.
This just means that they're going to beat Arizona, that you guys are talking this way. So anyway, that's enough. That's enough for this episode. Can't wait to break down all 7 of these games, give out our locks, dogs, money line. We have not hit our freaking parlay yet this year, so we've been knocking on.
Only means we're due. Don't quit. Never give up.
We missed by 1 game this last weekend. Who ruined it? West Virginia.
Yeah, WV.
Yeah. Fuck you, Neil. All right, that's enough for this show tonight. Make sure you do your part and fight these corporate clowns that are pushing this Notre Dame propaganda, SEC and Big Ten nonsense. So get on over there, like, subscribe, all our channels, College Football Experience, College Basketball Experience, all these channels, baby, Big 12 Experience. Ryan Rush coming up next over there at 6 o'clock to talk some more misery with Neil Brown and the Mountaineers. So if you want some more misery
loves company.
Yeah, get on over there. He's at Troy Chewning. He's at Rambling Rush. I'm at Moneyline_back. We are the Big 12 College Experience. Got to keep fighting the fight, everybody. And we are at it. Amen, Jeff Sharp.